This is America in Space, a weekly news and information program on current events dealing with the space industry. From the Washington News Bureau, here is your host, Rick Potluck.
Reporting today for America in Space is Space Coast editor Dawn Meyer.
The Ingenuity helicopter will be the first aircraft to fly on another planet. Carried to Mars aboard the Perseverance rover, Ingenuity is a technology demonstration that will attempt the first ever powered, controlled flight on another world. The teams operating Ingenuity and Perseverance are preparing the helicopter to commence flight operations in April. Ingenuity has overcome the vacuum and radiation of the journey to Mars, the descent and landing onto the surface of Mars on the bottom of the Perseverance rover, exposure to the Martian atmosphere, and now Ingenuity is preparing for flight to test its ability to overcome the thin atmosphere of Mars, which is just 1% of Earth's atmosphere. Here is Bob Balaram, Ingenuity's chief engineer at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, to tell us about the special cargo that Ingenuity took to Mars to honor its place in history as first in flight on Mars.
Most of all, I think of Ingenuity also as an experimental aircraft. In the long tradition of experimental aircraft that started all the way from the Wright brothers, who were able to bring aerial mobility as a dimension for us to be able to travel here on Earth. In the same way, we are hoping that Ingenuity also allows us to expand and open up aerial mobility on Mars. The Wright brothers in 1903, they flew this with a small spruce wood and fabric system. We in Ingenuity, with all our high-tech materials and carbon fiber skins and exotic metals, we are very proud to honor that experimental aircraft from long ago by carrying a small piece of fabric on Ingenuity. This fabric is from the original aircraft that flew at Kitty Hawk, and we thank the folks at Dayton History who let us honor that original pioneers with this, adding this piece to our Ingenuity aircraft.
What will it take to get Ingenuity ready to fly? Here's Bob Balaram to explain more about the preparations that the craft must undergo before its first flight.
There are still a number of challenges ahead. We are at a milestone right now where we are on the surface. We have successfully exposed ourselves to the atmosphere of Mars. We are right now in the process of having the rover drive us to a location, which will be our airfield. There will be a 10-day sequence of careful, critical deployments. And then there will be the deposition of the helicopter on the surface. And then there will be that first exposure to sunlight when we have to charge the batteries by ourselves, where we're no longer part of the Perseverance rover and connected safely. And we're completely on our own, fully autonomous, waiting to receive commands. We will go through a number of days of commissioning, approximately a week, where we test out sensors, we test out servo mechanisms, we test the motors to make sure they spin right, and we'll be very methodical and event-driven as this engineering experiment unfolds. And then we will be at a point where we'll undertake our first flight, and then we'll progressively undertake more aggressive flights once we understand and analyze all the behavior from that first flight.
Once Ingenuity begins operation, it will continue test flights for up to 31 Earth days, which is 30 sols, meaning Martian days. I think the Wright brothers would be proud of the part that they're playing in the Ingenuity flights. From the Space Coast, this is Dawn Meyer for About Space Today.
Dawn will join me, David Denault, next Tuesday on About Space Today with more on the first in flight on Mars. And be sure to have your family and friends listen in and follow us on Facebook at aboutspace.today. And again, we give a weekly shout out to our neighbors around the globe. And today our shout out goes out to Brazil. And to all our friends in the U.S., thank you for listening. I'm David Denault, and this has been a special edition of America in Space.
Join us each week for news and information on America in Space.